Episode number 2 of the Dry Dock Podcast, and we're joined by Rivermen assistant coach Eric Levine, who's got the top knot going. Is this a premonition of us getting an announcement that you're coming back and playing goaltender again for the Peoria Rivermen next year? Because I think that's the last time I saw you with the top knot.
Yeah, no chance of playing. Just making sure it's a little more helpful to keep organized in the summer. It gets hot, so when it's up, it's nice. It gets the neck nice and cool.
I remember back in your playing days, man. There are like videos and pictures of Levy, and he has his hair like all the way down to here.
I had it long, I had it long, and it's coming back a little bit, but we're keeping it more under control than when I was.
Is that more Anne's influence, or is that just a personal decision by you?
Yeah, anything fashion is my wife. She keeps it. She told me she likes it actually, so she's been an advocate of me to grow it a little bit longer. So
happy wife, happy life.
Yes,
that's what they say, right?
Yes, absolutely.
But it's been about 6 weeks since the Rivermen season came to an end. What's been going on in Eric Levine's life? What have you been doing to stay busy and also get ready for next season?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy. It's a weird time. The Rivermen season ends. You kind of get away from hockey a little bit. The weather starts to get warmer. Spend some time outside. We just do a lot of yard work. We just built ourselves a little garden with the help of my father-in-law in the back, and mowing the lawn and just getting all the house stuff in order and some details and that fun stuff. But honestly, as much as the season has been a bummer that it's ended, it's nice to have the nights back, because I've really gotten into the Stanley Cup playoffs. I've been watching that. I've been making my wife watch a lot of hockey. She thought the season was over. I was like, no, this is the best season for the NHL. So I've been watching a lot of playoff hockey, a little golf, a little housework, and just getting ready for the camps here.
All right, I've got to ask, what the heck happened to your Stanley Cup pick?
Yeah.
The Toronto Maple Leafs just got through the first round, then keeled over and died.
I mean, it's
what
tough.
Happened,
it's tough when they're. I mean, I don't think it was Wolves' fault at all. But Stolarz gets hurt, against Florida. He was kicking. It's just one of those things. Toronto's got their best players not playing their best. I thought Nylander was really good. I thought Nyes took a huge step. I thought he was probably their hardest player. You could tell Matthews, I think, had some injury problems. He just wasn't himself. And you got Marner. He's a great player, but he's just not playing playoff hockey. And those guys had a tough time closing it out when it mattered most.
So take off your coaching hat,
Yeah.
put on your GM hat.
Yeah.
Is it time to move on, if you're Toronto, from the core four?
I mean, it depends on the contract. I think Nyes can be a replacement if they lose Marner. I think you still have the 4 guys. Hopefully you can get Tavares at like somewhat of a friendly hometown deal. I mean, he's made enough money in his life. I think he loves playing there. I think Matthews is locked up. You keep Nylander under contract. You keep Tavares. It's just, I just don't know if Marner's worth what he's going to make. And the problem is there's some teams that are out there that are going to pay him $13.5 million. And that's great, but like Toronto just doesn't have the cap space for it. I don't think you can get value at a player for making $13 million when you've already got guys making $8, $9, $10 million. You don't have any room for depth. And as you see in this playoffs, even Florida, right, you lose guys that go down. You lose Reinhardt, and it's like, okay, well, they have players that can step in. Boquist has come in. It's like you need depth, and in order for that, you have to have money to play with, and you just can't demand that much out of 4 guys.
So you're saying contract situation. I'm a little bit different. I say get rid of them.
Yeah.
I say total overhaul. Get rid of the core 4. Trade Matthews. I'm sure you're going to be.
I don't
any
know
team's
going
to. No, I say get rid of Matthews. You're going to get a king's ransom for Matthews from any team.
Yeah.
Say Philadelphia, for example, if they want him. But regardless, you're going to get a king's ransom for him. You got to totally blow it up and rebuild. Like I'll put it to you a different way. If Jean-Guy and the Rivermen got eliminated from the playoffs in the first round after finishing in the top 2 every single year, 3 straight years in a row, do you think he'd keep his core around, or would he blow it up?
No. A little bit comparing apples to oranges, just
Fair.
Because in this sense you don't have guys under contract, and I mean you need stability from your top players because you need to build some chemistry and you need the fans to kind of know who their captain is. Matthews, unfortunately, I think was hurt. I mean, if he's a 60-goal scorer twice, like I don't think those guys grow on trees every day. And like he does block shots, he does play hard. He's gotten way better. I don't think he's the problem. I do think they have a lot of skill and not a lot of toughness. I like the pieces that they added. They added Tanev in the back end. They added some good players at the deadline. It seems like their star players in the biggest. You talk Game 6, Game 7s. It's like Marner doesn't have a goal. Matthews doesn't have a goal. You need production from your top guys, no matter what level. Look what happened to us, right? It's like you get to the end, and if your top guys aren't producing what you're used to, it's really hard to ask your depth every game to step up, which is kind of why in the shifted series, why Edmonton's been so good is when their star players haven't necessarily done what they've done in this 2-point per game run that's insane to sustain. They've had their depth. They've had Corey Perry scoring. They've had other guys scoring, and that's what you need at playoff time.
Yeah, and I like that you brought it back to the Peoria Rivermen because you're right. In that second round series against Evansville, it was the Rivermen were challenged in trying to find scoring. How surprised were you, if at all, that Evansville ended up winning the whole darn thing and ended up sweeping Knoxville?
Crazy. I mean, surprising that it's a sweep, not at this level because it's best of 3. I mean, if you're talking a best of 7 and you say a team like that ends up sweeping a team, that would surprise me. I mean, the first game went to double overtime. It's coin flip. It's a bounce here or there, and then, I mean, I wasn't surprised because their goalie was playing so freaking well, and I mean, CC was just having the playoffs that allows a team like that doesn't score a bunch of goals to stay in it, and I think the first game here at home in the semis, like, we just didn't even test them. We didn't even have the quantity or the quality of shots that we're used to. In game 2, you got to give him credit. I mean, the guy made 30-plus saves. He made some great A's. I mean, listen, did Barker put that puck in the net? I think so. There's no video review, but, like, we still didn't deserve to win. Like, you still got to beat him on some clean shots or some traffic, and, I mean, he just played out of his mind, and good for him. I was happy. I mean, if there's any team I think to do it, it keeps it in the North, I guess you could say.
I guess, yeah.
And listen, I have a lot of respect for players like Curtin and even players like Hobbs. I thought when I came into this league and Hobbs was like a younger player, I kind of thought he was a little erratic, kind of a bit of a hothead, and I didn't necessarily think he like played hockey. And then you see the transformation he's had. Like, he kills penalties. He's good on the faceoffs. He's a guy that's reignited his career and like has become a real captain. Like, he plays the game the right way. He doesn't do anything egregious or dirty. He still plays hard. He stands up for his teammates, but to see him like become a captain and to have players around him like Curtin and guys that like have battled for a long time, it's good to see guys get there first. And I mean, if they're going to do it, you had to beat us, Huntsville, and Knoxville, 3 pretty good teams, so you got to give hats off to them.
Well, the crazy thing about that finals, because it was Evansville, who was the 7 seed, and you also had Knoxville, who was the 5 seed.
If you had that in your bingo card, let me know, because I certainly didn't think it was a 7 versus 5.
Well, I think that also leads to a little bit of understandable frustration, because like, the Rivermen were so young. I think by the end of it, half the playoff roster were first-year players, first-year rookies. Yeah. The table was set for this team to win another championship. Like, if you're thinking, all right, what's the most favorable path for a young team to go all the way to the finals and win, it would be taking on 8 seed, 7 seed, 5 seed.
And that's why it's called sports. That's why it's the best. It's the best TV show in the business, because you can't predict it, you can't write it, and just as soon as you think you have grasp or an understanding, it throws a curveball to you, and it shows the importance and it shows the appreciation when you do win, how freaking hard it is, because not only do you have to be playing good hockey, be injury free to a degree, get the bounces, get to this, get to that, you still have to kind of have luck on your side. And when you think you have all the luck, well, then maybe the plate isn't there. When you're maybe not playing great, maybe you get lucky, and you have to have a line, and it just unfortunately wasn't in the cards for us.
Or maybe some goalie makes an incredible save, and that prevents a game from getting to 2-0 and going back to a game 3.
You never know, right? It's just any little thing, and man, I mean, what a crazy environment and what a crazy profession we have, and it really makes you appreciate how hard it is, and that's why you do it, and that's why you want to come back every year, more motivated and hungry to get it done.
Speaking back on next year, the Rivermen are going to be without a number of key pieces, including Zach Wilkie, who announced his retirement this summer. You've had a chance to play with Zach Wilkie for a number of years. You coached him for 2 more. How difficult will it be to replace a player the caliber of Zach Wilkie, and where would you rank him in the pantheon of all-time Rivermen defensemen?
I mean, I remember Zach coming in, first-year guy, and just, he was a little out of shape, and as soon as he kind of got himself, like, integrated, and he kind of, like, lost weight, and he kind of started to actually, like, be dialed in, like, I knew right away, I was like, wow, this guy is a different breed. Not only does he, like, play the game as hard as I've ever seen anyone play, and, like, what I mean by that is, like, he's putting his body on the line. He doesn't care if it's blocking a shot in a game that you're down 5-1, like, he's just never not going to block a shot. He's never not going to be engaged in the corner. The guy tries his hardest every single shift, and It's something that sounds like, well, yeah, don't all your players try hard? Well, yeah, everyone tries hard, but then there's guys that really, really give it, and they're selfless because they just do whatever it takes for the team. And Zach's gotten better like every year, from being a first-year guy to then becoming a defenseman of the year, and I think just his second year, and like just the poise and the growth he's had offensively, it's really hard to replace that because you don't find defensemen that can skate like he does, can make plays like he does. But then you also say, well, okay, why not just turn a forward into a defenseman? Well, that they're going to add offense, but they're not going to be able to play defense and defend in their end. And he does it at both sides. He's a unicorn in that he's as good defensively as he is offensively. And when you have a guy that's a quarterback in your PP1 unit, that's the first penalty killer you throw out and is the guy you want in every O-zone and D-zone draw, I don't know how you replace a guy like that, because he's really good at everything he does, and he's just been such a great leader. His energy in the room, the way he shows up, and like he practices with the same passion and intensity that he plays with, and that's what's driven the bus for a lot of players to follow along, of how hard he goes. And for everything he does, man, he's a 2-time champ. I would rank him as the best defenseman. I think him and Nick Neville, the two best defensemen in the SPHL era, possibly ever. And he's got to be up there with among some of the Rivermen greats.
Oh yeah, he's definitely top 5 in all-time Rivermen defensive scoring. I think he leads the SPHL era for Rivermen defensive scoring. But I think one of the other challenges that will be for replacing Wilkie is just how good a guy he is in the locker room. Like both he and I have seen you in 2 different roles, seen you as the player and seen you as the coach. And I would go on a limb and say that you are one of the most jovial goaltenders I think I ever met. You and Colby Muse. I give you a little bit of an edge, but I'm biased because I've seen you play for 2 years and work with you for 2 more as a coach. I've only worked with Colby for 1. But on the one hand, as a player, and even personally, you're a very jovial guy. On the other hand, as a coach, when fans and people see you on the bench, you're very locked in, focused, the stoic right arm of Jean-Guy Trudel. How do you marry or combine those 2 personalities?
I mean, it's kind of as it goes. Like, you want people to be who they are, Like, I guess I've always appreciated playing hockey, even like for my first year, because growing up, it's all I wanted to do is play hockey. And of course, you think you're going to play forever, and then you kind of like get a little bit older and realize, okay, you're probably not even going to play college. Like, if you look at the statistics, then you play. And I found myself on this path of playing pro hockey, and I was just like in such a state of gratitude that I was even getting to do it for 1 year, and then 1 became 2, and 2 became 3, and you have this long career, and you just look back, and I've always been so grateful. So there's never been a day at the rink where I've had an excuse to be upset. I've been upset internally, maybe at my performance at times, but like I've always just been so happy to be at the rink, to call this my job, to get to do this. And so that tends to just be how I look at a lot of things in life. Coaching, it's really hard, and I learned quickly, like, it's not like you don't just stand there and kind of do nothing. And so I'm trying to put all my mental effort and energy and attention, because all I can really do is like apply my maximum amount of focus on my task. And I'm not going to make good decisions all the time, but like I at least want to be giving myself the capacity to do it with the full awareness that I have. And as a coach, and I'm learning, there's a lot of things you're balancing at the same time. You're trying to keep a lot of plates spinning, and so it takes a lot of my energy to like make sure I'm remembering my assignments, whether it's matchups, whether it's this is what we're going to put on the PK. If this happens, this is who we're going to go with, pairings wise, if it's offensive or defensive zone, and things that you're just trying to make sure you don't want to make a mistake, because ultimately you're part of the team, right? And as a player, you always wanted to do your best because you don't want to lay your teammates down. Well, I have a pretty big responsibility, out there, and like I take it super serious, and I don't want to make a bad mental error because of a lack of focus. Of course, I'll make like a gut decision, maybe that's wrong here or there, but it takes a lot of my intensity and effort to be focused, and because you're also trying to do it at the level of Jean-Guy, right?
Yeah.
He's the guy that you're trying to say, well, he cares about it this much, he puts this much into it. You don't want to be the one that's dragging, right? You want to be up to that standard. So there's really no time to be out there smiling, and of course it's fun, and I'm having a blast, and it's amazing to get to do what we do, but you're trying to be locked in. I certainly don't know all the answers, X's and O's. Guy doesn't, have every answer in the book, but he's really good at like trusting his instincts. That's what it's about, is you got to go with your instincts.
I think his instincts are pretty good. He's got over
Really
400
good.
wins for a reason.
He knows, he understands the flow, and he's the best coach at understanding how to get momentum back. Most coaches, when there's things that happen in the game and your team starts to go downhill, like there's this moment where you're like, okay, do I hit the panic button now? Do I wait? Do I change things up? Do I do this? There's all these decisions. I can go this way or that way with it, you know? And the coaching side is like, you got to get really good at understanding when to make certain decisions. And he's just the master at understanding the when in the game.
What is the biggest challenge? I'm going to put you on the spot here. What is the biggest challenge of being an assistant coach for Jean-Guy Trudel?
Man, Guy's great because he ultimately, like, he knows everything that's happening in the game. So he could do my job. He could do the job of 3 coaches on the bench. He could be doing the forwards. He could be doing the defensemen. He could be calling pairs. He can be mixing and matching with systems. Like, he can do it all. He delegates the responsibility to me for some things. And so the hardest part is just like, you're trying to think like he does because you want to be a step or 2 ahead. You want to say, well, if this happens, I'm going to put this guy out because of this reason, you know? And he's been doing it so long that it's almost instinctive to how he calculates those things. And he sees the game really well, and he's got a very unique, keen sense for what player is playing well within our system. That's why he's so good. He knows his system is going to work against this team, so you got to get the right players to buy in. And so the hardest part is just like, you've got to be thinking multiple steps ahead. There should always be a why as to what you're doing. And if it's just putting out a certain player, that's great, but it's like, why am I doing this? Is this helping the team because of this reason? And if it is, do it. It doesn't mean that your decision's always going to work out.
Right.
You could put the right players out but still lose the game.
Right.
But like he says, it's poker. If you put the right players in the right situations, most of the time you're going to win. And that's what he's good at architecting on the bench. And so just trying to keep up at that level and think like he does is, I mean, the hardest part, because he's a genius when it comes to hockey. So I'm just taking it all in and being willing to learn from my mistakes.
Do you think taking it all in, thinking like Guy, or at least 2 steps ahead, is that, do you think, the aspect you think you've improved the most as a coach from year 1 now to year 2?
It's like anything. It's experience, right? The more reps you get at anything in life, you know, if you're passionate about it and if you care about it, you're going to get better, right? It's just, no one knows the answers the first time around.
Right.
Especially in a game where there's this weird idea that you could still play well but lose, and you can play bad and win. Like hockey and sports, it's unpredictable. So there's no like formula to say this is how you do it right every time. You still have to have a lot of things go well. But just the more that you do it, the more you kind of feel. And like you said, it's mostly like being prepared. It's knowing, like, in practice what you want to do to best prepare your team, because practice is the coach's time. That's when we have the ability to do certain drills, to do certain concepts or things that we think are going to help the team or individual players. So our work comes in practice, but in terms of like managing the game, it's just trusting your instincts on the bench and feeling like, okay, if I need to make a change, you usually have to do it sooner rather than later, or you have to exercise the patience not to do something. Sometimes they say that, you know, the best trades you make are the ones that you never made in the first place. Sometimes exercising that patience when you want to just say, all right, well, that's it. I'm going to remove this player from the game, or he's going to sit. Okay, well, maybe I give him a little bit more reins, knowing that eventually it's going to even out. And that's just all feel. And it's just stuff that, with practice, you get more confident and more competent. And again, getting to learn from Guy, with Guy, it's accelerated my understanding just by a product of being around him, because he's so intelligent when it comes to hockey.
You look at this year and all the crazy twists and turns, ups and downs in that year. If we were to make a painting or a portrait of this year, and it could be a collage, it could be a single moment, or whatever.
Yeah.
If we were making a painting, what would that painting entail that would basically sum up this year, the 2024-2025 season for the Peoria Rivermen?
It's a really good question. I think it would be some sort of, it'd be some sort of like, I would say like abstract art of like, it's not clear lines. It would be more of an impressionism kind of mixed in with like a little bit of a Jackson Pollock of just random spots here and there, because we had so many, I guess like just weird things happen where like we had a ton of injuries, and then we had a ton of call-ups, and then we had players come in that we thought were going to be great. Maybe they weren't. We had guys that we counted on in certain situations not be able to perform, whether it was be physically, whether it would be injury-wise. Like, we just had so many things to deal with, and so it felt like every time we had a picture of what our team looked like, some other part of it was kind of ripped away. So like the painting was never a clear line boundaried. It wasn't like a realism. It was very much more of an impressionism, where you had some spots that if you squint hard enough, you could see the outline and you could see what you're talking about, but other parts, random colors, blobs, things, and then maybe you take a step back and so that's actually really pretty. I don't know how they made it work, but they made it work.
Did you go to the Art Institute Chicago recently?
Well, I grew up in Chicago. I have been to the Art Institute. I have done my fair share of painting. I took an art class in college, and I remember having to look at all these. But yeah, it would definitely be amongst that. And I remember talking to Guy too. Like, if you would have looked at our transaction history, to kind of think that we finished first in the league and led the league in goals for and goals against, it didn't feel like that because we went through so many guys and had a lot of adversity.
More than 60.
Yeah, not to say that other teams don't. Not to say that we had a harder route than other teams, but it just seemed like we had a lot of player movement. Some of it was, on our own doing. We elected to move players in and out, and a lot of times our hand was just forced and we had to. So, look at the number of goalies we had. Like, we just kept having to go through goalies because we had one that was injured, we had one that was there, one that got called up, and you have guys that are in, and you're like, it's just crazy. We had a lot of moving pieces, and I was proud of the fact that we did manage to scratch out a lot of wins with a different lineup, and sometimes playing with. I remember that game in Pensacola at the end of the 3-3. I was on the bench, and we had about 13 available skaters, and took about, I think, 8 penalties in the first period. And somehow we're up 1-0 and end up somehow winning that game. Like, just a lot of those instances throughout the year that were crazy.
Who surprised you the most on that roster? Out of all the 60-plus guys that suited up for the Rivermen this season, who surprised you the most?
Surprised me the most? Wow, that's another outstanding question. Man, that's a really good. I'm gonna maybe say I'll give you one on the forward end, one on the goalie end, one on the defensive end.
Okay, that's fair.
I'll give you the full thorough question.
That's fair.
I would say on the goalie end, I knew that Bosted was going to be a good goalie when we brought him up. I didn't know he was going to be that solid, and he was a guy. I want to say, what did he have? 1 regulation loss, maybe not even a regulation loss.
Something ridiculous
went like
that.
7-1 or 7-0-1, and like just played so well. And he kind of did it in this quiet fashion where he came in, he was backing up Muse, he was there when Muse got called up, and Tino wasn't back yet, and so like he was our starter for a couple weeks, but then he was the backup, and it's just like he was such a great teammate. He was such a diamond in the rough back there to find how good he was, how good of a teammate he was, and like when he played as the backup goalie, you usually get the tougher games. You get the second game on the road, you get the Sunday game where everyone's not really in it, and it's just like he stepped up. Did he give up a couple bad goals in games? Sure, like every goalie does. But when like the game was on the line, he made the saves. He was a battler. Like, the guy competed. He got us so much. We got so much out of him in a way that I didn't think we were going to get, and he was super integral for how successful we were. All the wins he got for us, like, he was great. He was a diamond in the rough. Hope we get him back. Defensively, I'm going to say getting Michael Ferrandino in. Player that I knew a little bit. He used to shoot at my goalie camps when he was playing juniors. I knew him like 7-8 years ago, before he was playing juniors, before he went to college. Awesome kid. And then when Guy and I were talking about players, he brought up his name. He had looked it up, and I was like, I know that guy. And I immediately texted him. I was like, dude, I can't believe it. You're a senior already. You're graduating. Time goes by so fast, And when we finally got him in, like, he was unbelievable. Just so steady. And like the poise that he displayed on the ice and the things that he did reminded you of a guy that's been playing pro for like 5 years. Just so solid, such a good first breakout pass. Very, like, he's got a low heartbeat, or a low heart rate. It just never seems like he's stressed. Never seems like he's panicked. He makes the right play. When you put him out there, you can play the left side, the right side. He PKs. He played our power play for a little bit. He blocked shots. He's a one-man breakout. He was so smooth. He played with the presence and poise of a guy that was not out of college. Like, that was a huge surprise defensively. And up front, I'm going to say what we got out of Carson Baptiste might have been like, wow, this guy is a player. Coming up from the Fed, you look at his like track record and how many goals he's scored in junior hockey, it's crazy. And it's like a weird, he's from a a small town. He's part of a Native American tribe, and like he was supposed to go to Evansville, but he had a passport that was lost. He didn't have the right way to get there. He was back in the Fed. We called him up, and like you don't know what to expect from a player, and just the raw skill that kid has, and like him being so young. He was a surprise. I think he can truly be like a dominant over a point a game guy.
And hopefully all three of those guys come back to the Rivermen for next
Hopefully
year.
we get them all back because that would be fantastic. But yeah, there was a lot of surprises. But yeah, seeing how good and just what a great kid.
Yes.
Super quiet, super thankful, works his butt off. A guy you'd want to clone and have 20 guys like that because he's such a good kid. Plays his heart out, whereas, all he wants to do is like win for the team, works hard. Like I think he's going to be a really good player.
Well, before we get to next season, we got to get through this summer. You mentioned briefly your goalie camps. You doing Midwest Goalie Academy again this year? What does the rest of the summer look like for Coach Eric Levine?
Yeah, I'll be doing the camps one more summer here. Having the house in Peoria, will be more of a travel up and down, but I'll be going back to Chicago, doing the camps for like 6 or 7 weeks. Mm-hmm. So those start here shortly, kind of go up on the week, come back on the weekends type of deal. And it's just going to be helping out a little bit at Geese Camp when I'm around. When I'm back, it'll be obviously, doing a lot of stuff to prepare for next year and just player scouting, talking to players, trying to architect a team here with Guy, and we're just trying to get ourselves where we want to be at from day one. Player-wise, you never know what you're going to get in this league because players can go to the coast camp, they can make the team, they could do a million things. You never know who's going to truly be available, but you want to have a good plan to start with, and so trying to get the team ready, and a little bit of time to just recoup and get ready for a busy season again.
Getting any golf in?
Yes, quite a few golf rounds. They'll be coming to more of a halt here once the camp's big going. But trying to get out there. I mean, I'm so pale. I need some sun as much as I can during the year. I don't get out a ton, so to be outside, it's such a great excuse to just get some sun.
You spend too much time at the ice rink. Last question for you, Eric, before we let you go, and this is a big one.
Okay.
Who wins the cup? Does Florida make it 2 in a row? And it's looking like it's going to be Edmonton. At the time of recording, Edmonton has not clinched the West yet, but it's looking like it. Does Edmonton finally get their revenge? Does Connor McDavid, who brought home a gold for Canada in the junior, not the World Juniors, in the Four Nations, does he bring home the Stanley Cup to the Great North?
I'll put it this way. I heard a stat yesterday, and they said when Gretzky got his first cup in Edmonton, they lost in the finals, went back the next year, they won it. When Crosby got his first cup, they lost in 08 to Detroit, went back in 09, won his cup.
I remember that.
The greats just seem to have the ability to do things that make you say, wow, that's why that guy's great. I think McDavid is probably this generation's greatest player all around. I think the guy has he's taken the game of hockey to a level and played it at such a level that I don't think people really appreciate how special he is. And when you're that good and you've worked this hard in your whole life and that's all that you've done, singularly focused, to have a defeat in the cup, as heartbreaking as it is, to you're down 3-0 in the series, you make this unbelievable comeback, you have this Game 7, the emotional loss and how bad you have to feel after that has got to be one of the lowest points of his life. That, however, can be such a propellant for realizing how hard it is, like we said, and how fortunate you are just to be there, to have the chance. And so if he could get back to the finals, I think that level of motivation, not that Florida doesn't want to win, but their bellies are a little full, right? They've done it, and say what you want, you just don't have the same level of desperation in your game if you've already got one. Doesn't mean they're not going to win. They have a super talented team. They're unbelievable what they do. They can play up and down any way you want. They're amazing. But I think the greats just have something in them where when the chips are on the line and you have that chance and you're that close and you have it taken away from you and you get that redemption opportunity, those guys just seem to capitalize. I think if he gets there, he's going to step up. He's going to have some help, but I think he's going to get it done. So I'm pulling for him. That would be my pick. I would say in redemption fashion, Edmonton in 7.
In 7?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think to nail the coffin and to kind of reverse what happened, I mean, that would be the ultimate sports way to go out.
Boy, it's just like Roanoke the year after the Rivermen beat them in the finals.
Yeah, it's just something about when you get that close and then you get a chance again, you're like, okay, we cannot let this slip away again.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, Hyman being out for having surgery, that's a huge loss. He's so good, he's so valuable. And the question is always, if Skinner plays well, they got a chance. You know, he's had his struggles, but he seems to have found his game. Florida, though, to be fair, like, they're really good.
They're a buzzsaw.
They're really good. Bobrovsky's on another level. They have depth. They can score. They can hit. They can do absolutely anything. So, I mean, it's going to be great. It's going to be a great series. It'll be the last and hardest dragon to slay. But if anyone can do it, I mean, you got to think McDavid, generational talent's going to get it done.
Well, the generational talent versus the team that can do anything.
Yep.
Should be a great Stanley Cup Finals. Should be a great year next year for the Peoria Rivermen.
Hope
Eric,
so.
always
Thanks,
a pleasure,
Jason.
my friend. Thanks for coming on. For
Thanks
Eric
a lot.
Levine, I'm Jason Ruff. This has been the Dry Dock Podcast.